Hi, I'm Laura Stiehl, and I am the Family Liaison for the Estes Unit at PEP. So I wanted to go ahead and just introduce to you Jason Moore. Jason is in charge of all of reentry services here at PEP. Jason, can you tell us a little bit about you and what your role is?
So basically, I am the reentry manager for PEP in the North Texas area. Anything that has to do with reentry, I have my hands in it somehow, some way.
Okay.
I actually have a team of life caddies that report directly to me, and we'll probably get into that a little bit more as it relates to who and what a life caddy is.
There you go. So tell me something about when the guys are first released. What does that look like if we pick them up? If it's a PEP pickup, what does that mean, like the first 72 hours?
So if it's a PEP pickup, that is exactly what it says it is. We pick them up from the unit in which they are released.
Okay.
So we pick them up, we take them to get their first meal, we take them to whatever transitional house they are assigned to. If they're assigned to one of our transitional houses, we give them what we call a care package. We get them set up in their room. They meet the other brothers that stay at the house, and that is pretty much day one. Day two is a whole lot of moving and shaking as far as reporting to parole, getting certain documents if needed. That kind of takes up day two and day three.
Okay.
So, long story short, my life caddies are walking alongside them every step of the way when it comes to their first 72 hours out and beyond.
Okay. Since we're talking about life caddies, can you talk about what a life caddy is?
Okay, so in golf you have a caddy that helps the one that is golfing, right? He kind of directs and guides and gives instructions. Same thing with a life caddy. Our life caddies have experience when it comes to reentry from a professional standpoint because they've been doing it for a while, and then from a personal standpoint because they actually re-entered society themselves. So they know a lot about what it takes to accomplish successful reentry. So they walk alongside their loved ones once they're released in order to help them navigate and just get reacquainted with society. And that looks like sometimes counseling, sometimes listening, sometimes crying, sometimes just shaking your head, sometimes saying, hey, no, don't go that way, go this way, or let's do it this way, because once again they have the experience from a professional standpoint and from a personal standpoint when it comes to reentry. So they're holding their hand and walking with them. It's not like some type of dictatorship, you can't do this or you must do this, but it's more of a guide.
Okay. But at the end of the day, it's not the life caddy's decision, right?
Exactly. Just like with the golfer, right? The golfer can listen to the caddy, or the golfer can say, you know what, I think I need to go this way. I think I need to hit the ball this way. And that doesn't always end well.
Right.
So we would highly suggest, hey, if your life caddy is saying this, you need to listen to your life caddy.
There you go. Okay. All right. And so tell me a little bit about transitional housing. We have houses that are geared toward our guys, but what does that look like? Why would I, as a family member, want my loved one who's getting out of prison to go straight to a transitional home?
Okay, for a couple of reasons. Let me first say this. When we say transitional housing, it's not your typical transitional housing. It's not like a state-ran transitional house or what we've known as a halfway house.
Okay.
Those things are kind of like prisons outside of prison, right? And everything goes. Whereas with a PEP transitional house, it is a house. And when I say it is a house inside and out. It looks like a house. The inside of it is made up like a house. And then the people that reside in that house are family. We see each other as family. We went through the program together. So there's a brotherhood, there's a fraternity in that house. So when your loved one gets out and goes to that house, he is not going more times than not to meet strangers. They have something in common. They have
Okay.
PEP in common. They have been introduced and they have experienced PEP, and they have a certain amount of love and respect for one another from the jump, even if they never met each other.
Okay.
So that plays an essential part in helping loved ones to say, you know what, I'm comfortable with my loved one going to this place because they are familiar with other people that are already at this place, and we have something in common, PEP.
So what would family members need to know about transitional housing for themselves? Can they visit?
Yes, family members can visit. There's a curfew, of course, but family members can visit. The only stipulation, and this is not family members per se, is girlfriends or friends and things like that. They can come and pick up someone and they could go somewhere, but we kind of dissuade against that. But we are for like the family to visit, especially if that loved one has like electronic monitor system in play. We want family to be able to spend time with their loved ones.
There you go.
So yes, they can visit.
Okay. So how long does someone have to stay there at a transitional house?
So when we go on the inside and do our interviews when it comes to reentry and approving people to come to the transitional house, we frown on someone putting on their application, I just want to be there for 3 months.
Okay.
And here's why, because the first 90 days is essential when it comes to reentry. If people recidivate, more times than not, they recidivate within that first 90 days. But it's so much going on in that first 90 days, you really don't have a chance to get things established and developed like you need to. So if a person says, I just want to be at the transitional house 90 days, to us, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because you haven't had a chance to get established like you need to. So we normally try to push and promote anywhere from 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Before you would be ready to actually exit the transitional house and exit in a way that you would be able to continue successful reentry.
Okay. And so who pays for all of this?
So the first 2 weeks, PEP pays, right? It's called program fees. PEP pays for it. And then after that, the loved one would pay as they, more times than not, will already be working. We have guys working within like the first 14 to 21 days. So they'll already be working, and then the amount that they pay is really very, very small.
Okay, so if somebody is still looking for work though after the first 2 weeks, we're not going to bill the family, right?
No.
Okay.
No. So family doesn't have to pay the bill. We actually have what we call a scavenger hunt.
Oh.
And what a scavenger hunt is, it allows them to do something once a day for 10 days. It ties into our 10 driving values. And if they complete that scavenger hunt, they actually get another week of rent free. And the good thing about the scavenger hunt is the majority of the scavenger hunt is things that they already have to do as it relates to their reentry when they're first released.
Can you give me an example?
For instance, calling your life caddy. Right?
Okay.
You're supposed to call
Something
your life caddy.
simple.
Yeah. Another thing would be getting certain documentation. Another thing is putting in job applications. So it's things surrounded around things that they already do.
Okay.
But it's tied into our 10 driving values. So that qualifies them for a third week. And if they're not working after that, we're still not going to build a family. We're just going to say, you know what, hey, let's figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to start job searching over here in this area.
There you go.
So there are options.
Okay, good.
And then sometimes we can allow them, depending on their skill set, to do work at the transitional house or maybe up here at the office to suffice.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay, and one question that I do get from families sometimes has to do with transportation. Are the guys allowed to have a car? Are they allowed to get rides through Uber? Like, how do people get around when they're
Okay.
first released?
So let's talk about that. I mentioned earlier the life caddies, and what we do as life caddies is those first initial visits, we take care of those. So his parole visit, we take care of it. Getting to the food stamp office, getting a driving license, we take care of all of those initial visits. And then after that, what we do as a team is we provide public transportation. So what that means is we will give bus passes to their loved one until they get their first check. The only thing that would disqualify them from getting a bus pass until they get their first check is if they start smoking, dipping, things of that nature. The reason behind that is if you can buy cigarettes, especially I think they're very expensive now, you can buy bus passes, right? So we're
Yes.
just kind of keeping accountability in place.
There you go.
But they will have a means of transportation up until they start working from PEP, either through our PEP vehicles or public transportation where we provide the bus pass. But
Okay.
then after that, they would be responsible for getting to and from.
Okay, so some of the rules at the house would include things like no dipping, no smoking, that kind of thing. What other rules might there be?
Okay, let me back up real quick
okay.
and talk a little bit more about the transportation. They can actually have their own vehicle if they have a driving license and insurance.
Okay.
Right? So some people get out and their driving license is still valid.
Yep.
They still have a car and they just, get insurance on it and they're ready. Now,
Awesome.
what we dissuade against and we don't allow is you can't have a vehicle on the property unless you do have a driving license that's valid and you have insurance for that vehicle.
Okay.
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 But
very
they can
good.
have their own vehicle if they have those things in play.
Good.
Okay. So
Good to
now,
know.
so you asked me.
What other rules are there at the house?
Okay, so dipping, smoking, that is not a rule. We don't say
Oh,
you can't
okay.
dip, you can't smoke.
Got it.
We do say you can't do it inside the house. And we
Okay.
do also say if there are a bunch of cigarette butts in our grass and on our property, then we're going to place fines on everybody in the house. But
Okay.
we don't say you can't smoke. We don't say you can't dip. Some rules are as such: no stealing.
Yes.
Okay, no alcohol, no drugs. Here's what we emphasize at Columbia and O'Brien, which are in Dallas. We want stress-free, drug-free, debt-free. So
There you go.
all of the rules that we push and promote are tied into those three.
Awesome. That's great. I love that.
Okay.
That's good. Okay, so now you've been talking a lot about if the guys get released to one of our houses. What happens if this is a family pickup and the guy is going home? Like, what is the responsibility of the person that's
That's a
going to
great
be?
question. That really ties back into the question that you asked earlier about why a family member should want their loved one to go to one of our houses. It allows us and them to have more accessibility to each other, right? We can connect with them a whole lot easier if they're at our house and vice versa. But if they, get out and go home, that makes it more difficult to help in ways that we normally could help if they were staying at our transitional house. So case in point, if a guy gets out, he's a family pickup, let's say he goes to Fort Worth, right?
Okay.
Now he's all the way in Fort Worth. How is he going to get over here at the office? So that makes it different. How can we take him to get but if he was staying at the house, it's a whole lot easier,
Sure.
right? So, but we do have those situations where we say, okay, we'll work with you. You made a conscious choice to not come to the transition house, but go to your family, and we are for the family. So here's what we're gonna have to do. Maybe your family member or members can meet us halfway, and we'll, pick you up and take you to get some things done that need to get done, and then we can, drop you back off or come up with something that maybe isn't too hard for everybody involved. So we'll still work with them and try to, if they want to be connected, we want them to be connected. So we'll go above and beyond. But it's
Okay.
just a whole lot smoother, a whole lot easier if they're already at the transitional house.
Okay, that's good. Okay, and so what about, like, how does it work with food and how do the guys get meals and all that? How does that work at the house?
So now when a guy gets out from prison, he qualifies for emergency food stamps.
Okay.
And what that looks like is, the last time I think I checked, that's around like $200 worth of food stamps just getting out.
Okay.
And that's within like a day or two. We also have community food at each house where, okay, this is on the shelf, this is for the whole community. And then we also have house dinners where we have executive volunteers coming and they actually host a dinner and everybody's able to eat. So
Nice.
they won't starve.
Yeah, good.
They
good.
won't starve, yeah. And we've had instances where a guy gets out on a Friday, right? And he's not able to get his food stamps and there's not that much community food at the time because the people that normally donate it hasn't had a chance to donate it. So what we would do as a team is say, hey, let's go and get Johnny X amount of groceries, you know, to hold him over until he gets his food stamps.
Okay,
So we'll,
okay.
we'll take care of it. We always do.
Excellent, excellent. And one thing that I have been asked before is, what do I need to provide if he stays at your house? Like, what do I need to bring as a family member? Do family members need to provide things like sheets or towels or clothes?
Okay, great question. I mentioned earlier the care package, and that is exactly what it says it is, a care package. It has everything in it. Sheets, towels, hygiene items, you name it, it's in that package. It's almost like a $200 package, right?
Wow.
So any of those type of things, deodorant, soap, you name it, shampoo, they don't need to buy any of those things.
Okay, good.
And underwear, it's in there, all of the necessities. And when it comes to clothing, we actually have a partnership with One Man's Treasure where they are able to get, I think, at least 3 sets of clothing.
Excellent.
And I mean, it's very, very nice clothing with shoes, belt, and everything. So in a sense, they don't even have to provide any clothing for their loved one. If they wanted to provide something, and this is what I always push, get them a cell phone, a good smart cell phone. And here's why. The cell phone can act as one, you know, you can make phone calls, but it can act as so much more now because it's a smartphone. So they can do their applications on that phone. I mean, you name it, you can do it on that phone. So if they want to just invest and do something for their loved one, I would say, hey, buy them a phone.
Okay.
And then I would say, don't buy them a car.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
don't buy them a car. And here's why. Sometimes you need to embrace the struggle a little bit, right?
Right.
And I've seen a lot of stories that don't end too well when a person gets out and everything has been handed to him on a platter. So
That's hard for moms to hear sometimes, but
yeah,
embrace the struggle.
yeah.
Yikes. Okay. One other question I've had is, when a guy's about to get out, family members will sometimes say, I think he wants to continue his education.
Okay.
I know that we have e-school classes. I was wondering if you could talk about the difference between e-school and maybe trying to get some college credits.
Yeah, that's 2 totally different things.
I know, but
Yeah.
help us
So,
out.
okay, cool. So e-school is tied into who we are as PEP, and it comes from the name Entrepreneurship School.
Okay.
And it is really a follow-up of what has, or continuation of what has started on the inside when it comes to learning about entrepreneurship. So that's what e-school initially was about, right?
Okay.
And that has nothing to do with receiving college credits. That has something to do with them coming together once a week on a Tuesday night and really just fellowshipping, you know, and getting a lesson that is applicable as it relates to being an entrepreneur, but then also as it relates to just life in general. So that's e-school. When it comes to college credits and that type of continual education, they can, a lot of guys sign up for FAFSA and they are eligible for grants, not student loans. You want grants if you can get grants. And they go to school full time. The good thing about going to school full time, we don't put this out there a lot, but the good thing about it is if they do go to school full time, then they get a break on their program fees because they're going to school full time.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
That's something I hadn't heard before, so there you go.
And then we have some technical schools, you know, like HVAC, truck driving. We have some partnerships and connections with those type of schools too. And we kind of push in that direction when we see that a guy wants to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got just another question or two, and then we'll wrap this up. Is there anything that families should be aware of that would help to make their guy successful? What would be some traits that you've seen that help make the guy successful? And then the opposite would be, what are some red flags that the family members may need to keep an eye out for?
That's a good question.
I try.
Yeah. I would just say, don't smother and don't be too hands-on. You know,
Okay.
let them really experience and embrace the season in which they're in. You know, and once again, I think that's more difficult for moms than it
Yes,
is
probably.
than it
Yes.
probably is for dads, right?
Okay.
But just don't try to do too much, but be there, kind of like as a guide rail, similar to what we do as life caddies, you know.
Okay.
But let them, you know, kind of adjust and then just be understanding, be patient, and don't be fearful just because your family member or loved one may make a mistake that, hey, they're going backwards. You know, don't because we all make mistakes, right?
We're all human, last
Yeah.
I checked. Yeah.
So just be understanding, be patient, and don't smother and feel like, hey, you have to hold their hand and drag them down this road of positive, successful reentry, because chances are that loved one, that family member, hasn't had to re-enter society. So it's totally different, right? Mm-hmm. So be understanding, be patient, and don't smother.
Awesome.
That's kind of all in one. If you do that, it's not gonna end well. If you don't do that, chances are it will end well.
There you go. Excellent. Jason, thank you so much for blessing our families today. I really appreciate it. And
No problem.
guys, also, I believe I'm right in saying that families can also call the life caddy, and I usually say reentry specialist. So if some of the family members are saying, Laura never talked about that, reentry specialist is what I say. Same thing as life caddy. So they can call the life caddy if questions come up on the
Yeah.
family side, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I talked to several families before the loved one gets out because they have questions. Some of them center around these very things. Some of them are different questions, and we welcome that because we want them to feel comfortable and know that, hey, it's gonna be all right.
There you go. Awesome.